Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this afternoon's BSI-IFE Collaborative Reporting for Safer Structures or CROSS webinar. As you can see, I have Peter Wilkinson from IFE joining me this afternoon, and shortly I'll introduce Peter before his session. But just to cover off a couple of housekeeping things before we begin properly. This is a listen-only webinar, but it is being recorded, and we welcome your questions in the Q&A function. You'll see on the right-hand side of your screens, there's an opportunity for you to put your questions in there, and we will hold a short Q&A session at the conclusion of Peter's presentation. So please feel free as we go through to send us anything you'd like us to cover. If you do have any technical difficulties, again, please put them into the Q&A function. Our team in the background will spot that you're having some issues and do their best to help you. And upon completion of the feedback survey at the end, BSI will then send you a recording, a link to a recording for the webinar in due course. This is a CPD recognised webinar, so please request your certificate via the feedback survey following the webinar. So just to introduce myself, my name is Ian Richardson. I'm one of the sector leads in the built environment team at BSI. I have worked for BSI for almost 20 years in lots of standards development roles, managing committees and then working with committees. And more recently, moving into the built environment team to look at how we can further help the industry with any issues it may have. We develop standards, we look at solutions, we try and work with you to support you in the type of challenges you're facing these days, which are numerous, as I'm sure some of them may well come up today, no doubt. But just to give a little bit more, moving on to the next slide, a little bit more info about BSI, if you're not sure who we are. As you can see, we're essentially what you would call a business standards company, and our main aim is to help organisations make excellence a habit, so that they can perform better, reduce risk and grow sustainably. We have over 84,000 clients across 93 countries worldwide, but we also have a memorandum of understanding with the UK government, which establishes us as the national standards body for the UK. So you can see in the bottom right hand corner of that slide, we're the UK member of ISO and IEC, the international standards organisations, and CENLEC, the European standards bodies, and ETSI from the electrotechnical and telecom side. So we've been around for a while, formed in 1901, one of the world's first national standards bodies, and a lot of the standards I'm sure you're very familiar with. We've been responsible for originating many of the most commonly used management system standards, published around 3,000 standards annually. So hopefully that gives you a flavour for who we are. In terms of, I think, IFE, we have the Institution of Fire Engineers global professional membership body for those in the fire sector that seek to increase their knowledge, professional recognition and understanding of fire through a global discourse. Over 100 years of history, IFE is instrumental in shaping a future world that is safe from fire. You have a QR code on the right there that you can go and seek out a bit more information about IFE, but essentially through ceaseless betterment and sharing of knowledge led the way in enabling fire professionals to become rigorously assessed through a well-established and dynamic system of internationally recognised membership grades and fire-related qualifications, a beacon of established expertise guiding the way to a fire-safe future. Incredibly important work that they do. So, over to Peter, who, I mean, I did look at your bio, Peter. It's an incredible bio, so I'm just going to read the start. Peter is Technical Director at IFE, leads in technical matters, a new role designed to provide better technical support to members, represents the organisation on national and international professional forums, contributes to post-Grenfell initiatives in the UK and worldwide, drives the development and remit of the Technical Strategy Advisory Group, TSAG, leads on the continuous development of the IFE's body of knowledge, manages the IFE's responses to consultations, and acts as the main point of contact for technical inquiries, helping members to understand the institution's policy positions in a range of technical areas, and a very long background in the industry too, Peter, but I won't read it all out because it's quite long, but that shows I think the depth of knowledge and experience you have, and hopefully that will come across in the cross presentation that you're about to deliver. So over to you, and thank you very much for joining us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ian. And thank you everybody for attending today. Yes, as Ian said, I'm Technical Director at the Institution of Fire Engineers, but also importantly for today, I'm one of the designated persons, or designated people within CROSS, and I'll explain a bit more about what that means as we go through the day. Right. That's it. So, in this presentation, I'm going to tell you about CROSS, tell you about its purpose and its aims. It's the confidential reporting process. I'm going to tell you what can be reported and what the benefits might be. I'm going to tell you about the safety information that CROSS provides and where you can find it. So let's begin with a look at the origins of CROSS. CROSS was founded, or the organisation that became CROSS was founded in 1976 when the Standing Committee on Structural Safety, known as SCOSS, was established in the United Kingdom by the presidents of the Institution of Structural Engineers and the Institution of Civil Engineers. These institutions agreed to fund and set the strategy for SCOSS. And the main function of SCOSS was to identify in advance trends and developments which might contribute to an increased risk to structural safety. And that came about as a direct response to Ronan Point and box girder bridge collapses. Just by way of a reminder, Ronan Point was a 22-storey tower block in East London that partly collapsed on the 16th of May in 1968, only 2 months after it had opened. A gas explosion blew out some load-bearing walls, causing collapse of one entire corner of the building. 4 people died and 17 were injured. So SCOSS was created as a response to a major structural engineering incident. 1995, the Health and Safety Executive joined the IStructD and the ICE in funding and setting the strategy for CROSS. Let's whiz forward to 2005 and SCOSS implement a system for the collation of data on matters of concern relating to structural safety. And this system is named Confidential Reporting on Structural Safety, what we now know as CROSS. The concept on which CROSS was based came from NASA and the aviation sector. It's a concept that originated more than 30 years ago as the Aviation Sector Reporting System, ASRS, under the Federal Aviation Association and implemented by NASA. So CROSS developed this system for use in the UK and published their first quarterly newsletter in November of 2005. And that newsletter contains the first structural safety reports that were confidentially submitted to CROSS. In 2012, SCOSS and CROSS are formally grouped together under the name Structural Safety. And in 2018, CROSS goes international as CROSS Australasia is launched by the Institution of Structural Engineers in September of that year. In the following year, 2019, the international network of CROSS grows further as CROSS US is launched by the Structural Engineering Institute, SEI, of the American Society of Civil Engineers in July 2019. Now, in December 2017, just 6 months after the Grenfell Tower fire, Dame Judith Hackett produced her interim report. The themes and the issues she identified continued through into the final report, and all were accepted by the UK government. Dame Judith subsequently went on to make a distinct recommendation that CROSS should be extended and strengthened. And it's a result of that recommendation that in 2020, the UK government provided funding to expand CROSS UK to cover fire safety to fulfil that recommendation of the Hackett report. CROSS began working with the Institution of Fire Engineers to develop and run CROSS for fire safety reporting. CROSS received their 1000th confidential safety report in November 2020. And in that time, over 60 newsletters containing safety reports were being sent to a distribution list of around 10,000 individuals. And then I'm pleased to say, in 2021, in direct response to the recommendation in the Hackett report and the requirements of the then draft Building Safety Bill, CROSS UK launches its expanded remit to cover both fire safety and structural safety. That happened in March last year. Now, as I mentioned, as part of those developments, in 2018, CROSS became international in Australasia, and then in 2019 in the United States. Both of those providing a structural safety reporting process, and hopefully in the near future that will be expanded to fire safety as well. So how is CROSS managed? Well, the CROSS Technical Board is responsible for setting the technical and engineering strategy for CROSS UK. And the CROSS UK team work with these expert panels to implement the strategy. There are 2 expert panels, one for structural safety and one for fire safety. And the members of both panels are all volunteers. These expert panels comment on the reports that we receive, and they use their experience to help understand what can be learned from the reports. Where possible, they aim to identify the underlying causes of the safety issues being reported and make reference to other publications that those reading the report can access and use. The CROSS delivery team are based in our central London office and supported by legal, HR, IT and technical departments. So I mentioned that CROSS UK has 2 expert panels, one for fire safety and one for structural safety. The fire safety expert panel currently has 8 members and the structural has 22. Our expert panels are comprised of leading experts in their respective professions, and they come from a wide variety of sectors. Some are shown on the slide now. All members of the panel are selected for their personal attributes rather than representing an organisation or group. And when joining an expert panel, members make a commitment to act in an honest and transparent manner that's in the best interests of CROSS UK. So where do we see CROSS sitting within the bigger landscape? Well, this is our understanding of how CROSS UK will feature in the new building safety regime. And this is how we see it was envisaged by Dame Judith. So if we move from the left to the right, we know that there will be a means for the resident's voice to be heard. There will be a means for whistleblowing about individuals or companies, as well as the existing whistleblowing routes that are available, such as via professional engineering institutions. And there will be a mandatory occurrence reporting system, such as the current RIDDLE system. And we're helping the Department for Levelling Up and the Building Safety Regulator shaping these elements too. But CROSS really complements all these. And by being voluntary, by being independent, and by being confidential, CROSS really does have a niche role to play in developing this safety culture. So let's now move on to the reporting process. How and what can be reported? Well, there's a nice cycle that demonstrates the reporting process. A report can be submitted about a safety issue via our secure website. After the information is submitted, the reporter will receive a confirmation email, and then designated people across UK will communicate with the reporter as the report is processed. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm one of the designated people for fire, and there are only 2 of us. So there's only 2 people within the organisation that actually sees the contact details of the person who reported. Our next job is to anonymize the report. So that includes removing personal information about the reporter and also any other identifiable details in the report, such as location details or anything that might, we often get issues when photographs are submitted. We need to make sure that there's no particular identifiable details on those photographs. We also edit the report a bit for clarity at that stage. And then it's the designated people's job to send the report to the next stage in the process, which is to the expert panel for comments. And that's the anonymized report that is sent to the panels, and the panels are invited to add their comments to it. And they use their experience to help us all understand what can be learned by the report and add some invaluable insight and details to the report that's published. And then, as you'd expect, there is a legal review of the anonymised report. Make sure there are no concerns before we publish. And then we give the reporter a chance to comment on the final anonymised report before it gets posted into the public domain. Last chance for any final comments or tweaks. And then we publish the report. So the anonymised report is published on our website for others to learn from. It might be that that report is selected to feature in a newsletter, or it might be used in some other kind of promotional way. But that is our deliverable. The reports, anonymised reports, being published on our website. Any personal information about the reporter or about the location will not be published with the report. That's absolutely crucial. And after the report is published, all of the associated information, including that personal information, is deleted from our systems. So that can never be found again. And that's really important because it gives confidence to any reporter that we take their confidentiality very seriously. So here is a typical risk pyramid. I'm sure you're all familiar with this kind of thing. It shows that really serious incidents, the fatalities, hopefully happen less frequently at the top of that pyramid, with normal operations being the things that happen on a day-to-day basis at the bottom. And I think we see Cross as operating in these precursor kind of areas, the lesser events and near misses. Many of our most useful reports come from within organisations where a problem has occurred and a solution has been found, and those lessons are submitted for sharing. So we see ourselves as operating in that area. And clearly, when something very serious has happened, there are regulatory authorities that those incidents should be reported to. But what can be reported? Well, reports typically relate to concerns, near misses, incidents, or occurrences. We're also interested in weather-related matters as part of a wider contribution to environmental issues, because that's an important consideration for all professionals. But really, reports should aim to include information that will help others to learn from that safety issue that's been identified. Reports can arise in the design, the construction, the operation stages of a building's life cycle, but also issues can arise within refurbishment or alteration, with change of use, with extensions, as well as the end of life of the built environment. All these aspects of the building life cycle are important to us, and we really do want to receive reports on all of them. Who can submit reports? Well, anybody with an interest in or a responsibility for fire safety or structural safety in the built environment can report to us. So it includes all these professions that we're seeing popping up on the screen now. But most importantly, it's you. We would like to receive reports from you. What are the benefits of CROSS as a safety reporting scheme? Well, it's all of these things, really. We're hoping that becoming involved in the scheme, you're going to be promoting a safety culture within your organisation. By reporting, we're identifying shortfalls. We're identifying those precursors to more serious events. By being involved in learning from our safety reports and contributing to that body of knowledge, we're improving the competence of all of us. By sharing the lessons learned, we're hoping to reduce risk on future projects, and we're improving the competence of those who are taking on board that information. We have found that our reports can inform regulatory and other industry activities, whether that's developing codes of practice or other activities. And it assists with horizon scanning. Now, what we mean by horizon scanning is we're looking out there for the next future issues or potential disasters, for those unknown situations. We'd like to think that if CROSS had been extended into fire safety for some years before 2017, maybe, just maybe, we could have prevented Grenfell. That's a big statement to make, but what we're hoping to do is prevent the next Grenfell. So really, the pertinent point here is that key piece of the jigsaw picture that describes good culture. Culture is something that Dame Judith pointed towards in her review of the building regulations and fire safety. It's a small word, but so pertinent when considering how to develop an effective building safety system. And there are benefits of safety reporting for the individuals too, especially those of us who are professionals working in the built environment. I think these are obvious. Continuous learning and development, improving your knowledge of safety issues, keeping up to date with the safety issues. Right, let's move on. Where can you find this information? Well, I explained how our reports are published on our website, so please visit our website and browse. This is where they are first published. Also, find us on social media. We have a LinkedIn page, follow us there. Also, we're on Twitter, follow us there. Please interact using social media. So share the content that you find interesting, spread the word, add to the discussions that are developing. Also, you can get the information just popping into your email inbox. Sign up, subscribe. You'll get newsletters sent to you as well as notifications when new reports are published. So let's look in a bit more detail at the type of safety information that we provide. We publish fire safety and structural safety information to help professionals make structures safer. You can browse this through our website. The majority of our output are published in safety reports. Here's an example. It's got a report ID. This particular example is 998, and it's got a publication date, safety reports. So these are reports which have been sent to us using the confidential reporting system. So professionals who work with buildings and other structures can use that system. That's the majority of our output. We also publish safety alerts to raise awareness of safety issues which are considered to be critical and time sensitive. So alerts can be based on the reports we receive and the information that's also in the public domain. And it might be that we're receiving a few or several reports on a similar issue, and that can raise an alert. We also publish topic papers, so they're similar to safety alerts, but are aimed at presenting information which is considered to be less time critical or time sensitive. We also present information about, say, a particular safety topics in the format of feature articles, and these are written by Cross. We also create theme pages to present content around a particular topic. There's a good example about the safety of structures in the climate emergency. And then we also have the ability to publish third-party content. So third-party content is sometimes added to our site if it complements or supports other material that we're publishing. Here's an example looking at reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete that's used in the roofing of schools. We also publish Cross reviews and newsletters, which take the opportunity to reflect on our past work and to look to the future. So these are the main information types that Cross publishes. The best way to receive the latest information is to subscribe and to subscribe to our newsletter. So before we look at some of our output in a bit more detail, let's reflect and just look at where we've come from. So the Grenfell Tower fire in 2017 and the subsequent public inquiry revealed multiple fire safety related issues. A lot of these issues have got immense societal implications, and the UK building regulations system is going through fundamental changes. And like I said earlier, this was the catalyst for the expansion of Cross. And I think it's no underestimation to say that the Grenfell Tower fire changed fire safety worldwide. The fire safety sector really had nothing similar to Cross before, and the expansion of Cross is a key step that will support the fire sector in learning and providing a route for professionals to safely share lessons that need to be learned and to provide some oversight of the health of the fire safety system. The Institution of Fire Engineers welcomed the opportunity to work with Cross to provide this process for fire safety. And the IFE has helped to shape the expert panel who consider the reports received and provide that learning to the sector. And we continue to do so. We see it as being very important. Now I'm going to whiz through some of our most recent output, and I might mention, if you've got the ability to take some notes, I might mention some of the report numbers, and I urge you to take a look at these in a bit more detail because they're quite interesting. I'm sure a lot of us will remember the Liverpool Echo Arena car park fire in December 2017. It gutted the 7-storey building and up to 1,400 cars were destroyed. Now, fires in car parks are not uncommon. However, the Liverpool fire was unprecedented in scale because, unusually, the initial fire in one car rapidly spread to other cars. So we investigated that further and we published a Cross safety alert in February 2018. Now, the alert was aimed at those who own, commission, design, construct or maintain multi-storey car parks. It contained a real good summary of the key considerations from that Liverpool fire. It outlined other research on car park fires that had taken place. And it looked forward at the existing 4,000 multi-storey car parks in the UK and started asking some questions. It was well, in my opinion, a really informative and concisely presented safety alert that highlighted how the Liverpool fire provides compelling evidence that fire engineers and structural engineers, as well as owners and managers of similar facilities, need to really consider the potential impacts of fire in car park structures on both life safety and property protection. The Liverpool fire was comparatively benign, there were no casualties, but on another occasion, the consequences could be quite different, and that would be unacceptable to society. So that was the alert that we published in 2018. And we also published a safety report in October 2020. Now, this is report ID 940, and it's a safety report. So this is information that a reporter has reported to us. And the reporter was concerned by the reluctance of the industry to voluntarily take on board and proactively react to the lessons learned from the fire at the Echo Arena car park in Liverpool. So that's a fantastic, well, it's disappointing that the reporter felt the need to report this to us, but it was another opportunity for us to promote the information that had come, the lessons learned that had come from that incident. And our cross safety report, ID 940, presented some key learning outcomes for designers, for car park owners and managers, and it set out some really invaluable experience and learning from our expert panel. You will also find on our reports, if you look at them on the website, that there's an opportunity for people to provide feedback. And I'm going to come on to that issue next when we look at safety issues associated with balconies. In February this year, we published an alert. It was an amber alert, a safety alert. This alert was interesting because it draws attention to the safety risks associated with balconies, both new and existing, and it draws from confidential reporting that we've received in both from the UK, from Australia, and from the USA. And it really should be read by owners of residential and other buildings with balconies, local authorities, building control bodies, building surveyors, architects, structural engineers. And it's interesting because it spans structural failure issues as well as fire issues on balconies. And in summary, although apparently simple structures, feedback reveals that numerous problems with balconies exist. Most balconies do not have redundancy built into their design. So component failure, whether they are parapet or floor connection, can lead to immediate collapse. And recent events have highlighted high risk of fire when timber is used on any part of a balcony. An individual balcony may burn and the flames can then easily spread up through the entire facade. So that's a really useful and interesting safety alert with, again, a great deal of information presented in a concise way. We're picking off some of the meaty ones first, aren't we? So we published another safety report in March 2021. This is report ID 966. I urge you to have a look. The risk of collapse of multi-storey cross-laminated timber buildings during a fire. The reporter presented concerns about fire safety of multi-storey buildings constructed from CLT, and these concerns suggest to them an unacceptable risk of collapse in the event of an uncontrolled fire. So again, this is quite a meaty report, and the reporter has provided a lot of information, but this has also been developed by our expert panel to be a really useful resource. It provides key learning outcomes for designers, for fire engineers, for civil and structural design engineers, and for firefighters. And as you might expect, there is some interesting and invaluable feedback provided. And I urge you to have a look at this report on our website, 966. So extensive feedback was received, and it has really led to some meaningful conversations with the timber sector, and it's really all positive stuff. Let's look at another controversial one, a more recent report we published in June of this year. And this was, the reporter came to us with a disagreement between fire engineers and manufacturers on the testing for load-bearing performance of light gauge steel frame walls in the case of fire. Again, it's a quite substantial report. It contains key learning outcomes for light gauge steel frame manufacturers and suppliers, for designers, and for the Fire and Rescue Service. The first section of the report that's published on our website is the reporter's submission. It includes cross-expert panel comments in the second section. And then, I think it's worth noting, a really positive dialogue and relationship has been established with the Steel Construction Institute, because, as you might expect, they responded to this report as well, and their response is included in the feedback section on our website. So whilst there might be some differences in emphasis or differences of opinion in some of the aspects of the report, I think we're also really pleased that we are going on to develop a common understanding, and there's no such thing as a bad conversation when it comes to issues like this. We genuinely are developing much stronger relationships with these different bodies within the wider sector. Oh, now something a little less controversial, I hope. Well, maybe. In August 21, we published a report that combined information submitted by two reporters concerning fire compartmentation detailing issues. One on the incorrect installation of fire bats, and the other on the incorrect use of intumescent material. Now, I'm sure we've all got a catalogue of photographs of inappropriate fire stopping. It's something that we do like to compile. But our report, which is ID 1039, I again urge you to have a look, contains key learning outcomes for designers, contractors, and specialist installers, for building owners and other people responsible for commissioning mechanical and electrical work. And we've gone into some detail of describing the issue that the reporter presented to us on the incorrect installation of fire bats and the incompatibility between intumescent material and insulation. And there is a suggestion that some of the underlying causes include poor training and lack of checking. Again, there are some bits of feedback on that report on our website. Please have a look. I'll pick up speed now. I'm conscious of time, but report 1124 was an interesting one that we published in June 2022. An 8-year-old building that included cross-laminated timber construction was found that water penetration had caused part of the structure to rot, and this wasn't apparent from an external inspection. It was only because there was an intrusive inspection going on for other reasons that this rot was discovered. So, very important and very interesting. And our report, 1124, contains key learning outcomes for construction professionals and for contractors, and talks about designing in inspectability of key building components, including the structure. Interesting report, that one. Now, just to show that we can accept reports about process as well as about workmanship and real technical issues, report ID 1078 was published in June of this year, and it was received relating to the intended change of use of a large building. The reporter was concerned that there was an increase in the risk factors of the intended change of occupancy, but the protection levels were not being changed. An interesting scenario here. It's quite a short report, but it does include some key learning outcomes for those of us who are responsible as lead designers, especially when we've got change of use of a building that will most probably involve a revised approach to the fire safety principles employed in that building. And also a reminder to the authorities having jurisdiction that perhaps the change of use from a hotel to a care home, the in-service fire safety requirements need to be considered at the earliest opportunity. Yeah. Now then, moving on to those meaty issues again. Report 1058, published in March of this year, a reporter raised concerns regarding the increase in the use of lithium-ion batteries, along with their related hazards, which currently remain unregulated. Yeah, I'm sure we will be receiving a lot more reports on issues such as these, and this is contributing to our interest in sustainability agenda. But our expert panel has been able to point out some key learning outcomes for designers, for fire engineers, and for authorities having jurisdiction, relating to, of those currently available technologies, lithium-ion batteries with those highest energy density seem to be most prevalent use at the moment, and their failure probability is calculated to be extremely low when stored and operated within their recommended limits. However, any sort of electrical fault in terms of short circuit or overcharging or mechanical abuse can lead to thermal runaway. So we discussed thermal runaway in this report. We discussed the increased domestic use of lithium-ion batteries, and left with no uncertain terms that if left unaddressed, it's highly probable battery fires to become the next legacy fire issue with a high cost to society and expensive remediation. So a useful report that I'm sure is going to be expanded on over the years, over the months and the years, an issue that we cannot be ignoring. Report 1048, published in August in 2021, a reporter informs us that decking boards formed of a composite material contributed to external fire development in a block of flats and rendered the means of escape and firefighting access unusable. So, pretty serious issue here, and our report has key learning outcomes for designers, architects and fire engineers, and highlights the imperative that a common balcony or external approach which provides a means of access from one part of a building to another must have appropriate level of fire resistance. That route might be required as a means of escape for occupants and for access for firefighters. So some important lessons that were learnt from that incident, and we're hoping to be promoting those lessons through the usual routes. Right, the final one that I want to look at before moving on is report ID 1095. We received a report about, well, it's an interesting one, this, and just shows the variety of types of issues that we receive, all valid, but the reporter was critical of a supplier of cladding and decking materials because they refused to provide their potential clients with the product's reaction to fire class information. So some interesting and quite obvious key learning outcomes there for the design team and for manufacturers and suppliers. Yeah, so I hope that's given you a flavour of the wide variety of reports we receive and how we deal with them. Finally, as if we need reminding, these issues are global, and here's an incident just last year that had tragic consequences. A mixed-use building southwest of Taiwan. Most residents were senior citizens, and it resulted in 46 deaths and 41 injuries, mainly due to fire spreading rapidly because of unusual fire loading that was throughout that building. So that was a breakdown in the management of the building. We hope to prevent this kind of thing happening by the structure we've got in place and by learning from lessons. Right, very conscious of time and we want to have some time for some questions. So apologies, I'll just rattle through these. I think most of us on this call today understand that the Building Safety Bill received Royal Assent in April this year. The duties and powers of the new Building Safety Regulator are being developed by the HSE, and the regime will become operational at some time in the future. Safety cases are going to provide an important tool in managing higher risk buildings. An initial paper on safety case principles was issued, and many more will follow. There's a large task ahead with so many higher risk buildings to look at, and CROSS will be watching this with interest and playing its part in helping to establish this much needed safety culture within our improved building safety regulation regime. I would like to urge you now to sign up to CROSS. If you want to get your mobile phone and take a picture of this QR code, you'll be taken directly to our website. If you're still trying to find your phone, don't worry. This code will reappear in 2 slides time. But if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to our website. Then you will click on the register button and fill out your name, your last name, your email, and then you will receive an email sent to set your password and confirm your account. You will be able, once you've created your password, you'll be able to set your preferences. Click them all, why not? You'll receive newsletters, which are quarterly, safety alerts, and all the other information we've sent when relevant and timely. There are other preferences, but these are the main ones. Please, I would like you to get involved, keep up to date with the emerging safety issues, see learning from CROSS reports as being a key CPD activity for yourself. Use the information on our website and encourage others to get involved. Why not submit reports yourself? Please do that. It's really not time consuming. All reports are welcome and have a value in making structures safer. Don't worry, anything that's published is anonymous and confidential. So we have now got a short amount of time for Q&A. Here is that QR code again. Please sign up for your account. I think now's a good time for me to apologise for overrunning horrendously, but take some questions.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of questions, Peter. Thank you for delivering so much information and such really important content. And of course, the sort of positive downside, if I can call it that, is that you know, there's a lot of questions. So just to try and, because we've got sort of 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A, there's a lot of requests for the report numbers that you mentioned. I think rather than spend time now reading them all back to people, there's a couple of things we can do to help with those report numbers. Is one, obviously everybody will get a recording of this, so you can wind forward to the bits where Peter mentions particular cases and report numbers and just jot down the ones you're interested in. But also what we might be able to do is just perhaps put together some report numbers that you covered, Peter, into a post-webinar document and share it with everybody. So there's a few things we can do, I think.
Absolutely. We're happy to put that together.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll just leave that code up there momentarily, but then just to try and pick out a few questions that we have had asked. So in terms of the sort of reporting side of it, would you consider it to be appropriate for a fire and rescue service to submit a confidential report relating to a fire safety or other concern, or would you expect them to exhaust other avenues available to them prior to taking this approach?
That's a really interesting question and a good one. And I can report that we have received reports from the Fire and Rescue Service community, and the Fire and Rescue Service are also an important stakeholder in the lessons learned from the reports that we publish. So my answer would be yes, it is appropriate to report to CROSS, but clearly there are other reporting structures available as well, and it would be appropriate for those to be used, but that shouldn't prevent reporting to CROSS if there are lessons that clearly can be learned by the wider community, the wider build environment community. So yes, please do send those reports in.
Great. I mean, that sort of reporting and who and what should be reported, I think is key throughout this. There's another one here. How will the information that is reported to CROSS be disseminated, and is the information intended for the fire safety industry and regulatory systems?
Right. Well, the primary way that our information is disseminated is via the publication of reports that end up on our website. That's why it's really important for people to subscribe, so that they will get an email notification when new reports are published and when newsletters are circulated and things like that. But one of our important roles within CROSS is our outreach to all our various stakeholders. So just like we're doing this presentation today, we are repeating that with lots of different stakeholder bodies within the built environment and trying to spread the word. And we will be contributing to conferences. We're hoping to have a session at the Fire Conference in October, Fire 2022, which will spend a bit more time going through some of these reports that I've touched on today. And there will be a wide variety of dissemination activities. You will receive reports if you're a member of the Institution of Fire Engineers in every publication of International Fire Professional you receive. There's information presented in those. I know it's very similar for the Institution of Structural Engineers and for their members. So there are lots of different channels for dissemination. The main one being on our website, which is why it's very important for you to subscribe and get those alerts.
Fantastic. Interestingly, I mean, I barely asked a question, Peter, and then about 5 or 10 more come in. And interestingly, Claire Thompson has just written, great webinar, registered, been on the website, downloaded reports and shared with others. So yeah, interestingly, things are out there even before we've got to the end of the webinar. So thank you for that feedback. And maybe there's time for one more question, just around something perhaps that's quite interesting from a consultancy point of view. What is the best way to implement or encourage cross-reporting within a fire consultancy company?
Well, a fire consultancy company will be made up of professionals. Professionals are going to be members of a professional institution, professional body, and I think we've learnt over these last few years that in order to be competent, you need to make sure that you keep your knowledge and understanding up to date. So embedding cross-report reviewing as part of your CPD culture is very important. And to be honest, it's very easy. This is a really easy way for professionals to get an additional source of information fed into them. So if you can embed within your CPD culture, within your organisation, looking at and reviewing the information that is in current cross reports, then that will be great. But then also as a consultancy, if you're conducting quality assurance and project reviews for the projects you're involved with, it's inevitable that issues are going to arise, that there are going to be complications within your projects. There are going to be things that happen that are slightly unusual. Just think about those during your project reviews and think, well, could this be the substance of a report that I submit myself? And whilst the aim of today's presentation is to raise awareness of the expansion of cross into fire safety, to get people engaged and to consume the information, the next step, the thing that we really want professionals to be doing, is contributing to the information as well by submitting reports. And I really do, with all sincerity, tell you that it's really easy to do it. I did it myself a couple of weeks ago. I was carrying out a fire risk assessment on site. I discovered an issue that was slightly unusual, and it related to the particular hot weather that we were experiencing at the time. So another climate related side issue. I submitted a report within 5 minutes. So that's going through the process at the moment. So it's really easy to do. And I think that both cross consumption and cross contribution could be easily embedded within the culture of a professional consulting organisation.
Fantastic, and that's probably a great place for us to stop. I mean, we could have done another hour just on the questions that came in alone. So I think just to thank you for delivering the content firstly, but secondly to thank everybody who tuned in today, spent an hour with us in your day over lunch when you've also got lots of things in your day jobs to do. So I appreciate you spending time with us today, but it may well be an opportunity for us to follow up with perhaps some FAQs after the webinar to try and address a few of these really meaty questions, Peter. So I'm sure this is the first time that we've done one of these sort of collaborated BSI and IFE webinars and this is the topic, as you can see, we picked deliberately, but there are lots more coming, as you can see from the screen now. We've got 2 on the 27th of September. There's the 8644 specific webinar around digital management fire safety information. In the afternoon, there is competence for the fire safety professional that Peter will be joining us for that one. And then in October, fire safety regs, and then November, approved document B. So I really encourage you to go to the events page and just look at a bit more information around these events. And I think it was Martin Lyser who very early on mentioned perhaps a more specific webinars around content. His example was the lithium-ion batteries. Funnily enough, Peter, that you mentioned it in your presentation, I certainly think there is some material there that we can look to produce some events going forward. And then, of course, for more information, visit knowledge.bsigroup.com around the standards development too. So that is on the dot 1 hour. So I think we've done pretty well. Thank you for your help, Peter. Thank you to everyone. If there's anything you want to add, Peter, or if we're happy to draw to a close.
I think we've done. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Take care, everybody. Look forward to seeing you again in September.